quiero ilo penalo afe aloa kate no hopo ate sai ko alinga singa dito di madara ni sarui mosa dito na indelani no kuyara mataba sa chipeka ko tangayataka nalenga kere ni damamu wakolea mugolada nambuida sai kono kuseni dau namata meruno mosindina sarabia wakau asibina no muy Beccaro no modita ya mamarau lomo chino matangi lele utala ua ale maine eta mafana Samoa ufai mosei luta alo amaliro alo sa imalo uaino ai Samoa iomao uapati mama tauto tositoya ina aoletina watutuluae ualepisa yoko uliulilo chino ai malama umata tama Samoa se iatafetotoala si ono totoni ke olea atu ke onoi ko eku ofani okumo oni kahe ikai hato e tafoki peita pui tapomole aloi oyo
Thank you everyone. Today is our special program from the King County here in Seattle, Washington. This is the King County Public Health, and so glad that we always have Christina Frederick and every week, and also Michelle, thank you. And we have our special guest today is Dr. Mark Del Beccaro. This is such a great opportunity to speak directly with Dr. Mark Del Beccaro. He is going to come on the show and talk about the COVID-19 and this vaccination rate. I'm sorry that we're always running a few minutes late and we're trying to move from the coconut time, Islanders time, to the American time. But don't want to take much of your time because I know you always schedule a lot of the things, but they're coming on, the other islanders and asking question. So I'll give the opportunity to Dr. Mark Del Beccaro, and he is going to update everybody about the COVID-19 and the vaccination rate. Thank you.
Well, thank you first of all for having me on the show representing Public Health Seattle King County. But more importantly, thank you and your community for all you're doing to get vaccinated and keep safe. You have your community has done an amazing job. It has one of the highest vaccination rates of any of the communities. So first, we want to thank you for that and make sure how amazing it is that you all are doing. Because over 70% of Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders have been vaccinated or received at least one dose, which is very high. So that's great news. Um, Unfortunately, one of the things we want to talk about is we've seen a trend over the last several months of an increasing number of infections, and to talk about what your community can do and to talk about that trend. So the good news is that it's not a lot of new people per day, but it's still 3 or 4 new people. But the rate of infection has definitely started to increase again over the last couple of months. And one of the things we know is that well over 98% of them are not vaccinated. So it's a group, even though your group has done amazing compared to other groups in the county with getting vaccinated, there are still a lot of residents, many of them who live in South King County, like Tukwila, Kent, Auburn, those communities are still could be vaccinated. And with the news that Pfizer and hopefully in the next few weeks Moderna will be available for 12 to 16-year-olds, we really hope your community can gather young children, young teenagers, and get them vaccinated too. Because I'm sure with, families getting together and everything, the more people that are vaccinated in those families, the less chance there is for spreading that vaccine, spreading the infection. So again, um, the increase is something that is something we are watching carefully and would love to have your help and the community's help in getting that to quiet down again. And as I said, that one of the main ways you can do that is by getting vaccinated. The other way is when you're in things like grocery stores or restaurants or public transportations, we still recommend wearing masks because there is a significant part of the population that's not immunized at this point, and the rate of infection is still higher in South King County than it is in South Seattle than it is in like the north part of the county. And so the other important reason why to do that is to protect families, because your community unfortunately suffers a higher complication rate when they get infections, a higher chance of being hospitalized, and higher chance of having a death in a family when they get COVID. So let's get the vaccine, wear masks, wash, and see what we can do to get you from your great rate of 70% to even higher. Happy to take questions.
So much, Dr. Mark Del Beccaro. Thank you so much, for sharing this great information. I just wanted
And
to
it's
make sure.
okay. It's okay to call me Dr. Mark. You don't have to try to say my whole last name.
Okay, thank you. Um, like you mentioned something, about, uh, all the details about the Pacific Islanders, Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders right now. So, where do you think that it's going to go from here to tomorrow? As a lot of people said, oh, they can hardly wait, to see the mask is going to come off or there is any improvement since we have the vaccination.
Yeah, and the surest way for us to get masks off and be able to gather in families and not be worried is to really get from beyond 70% vaccinated because especially as I said, when you're gathering in either a restaurant or a grocery store, or even sometimes in a family with younger family members, if they're not vaccinated, they could have COVID even if they're not showing symptoms and then spread it to somebody else who may not be vaccinated. So again, the best thing that the community can do is to encourage those folks that are not yet vaccinated to get vaccinated.
So it's just like trying to encourage everybody to get vaccinated. Eh?
Right.
Okay, and
Yes.
that's um, so if the people get vaccinated and we still see the spreading of the COVID-19, um, as you as being a doctor, what do you see
Hmm.
from today compared to yesterday, like last year and up to now?
Yeah. Well, the great news is the number of people getting sick overall is dramatically down compared to a year ago. And so the vaccine and the work people did to stay, apart from each other and wash their hands and wear masks definitely helps. Um, and the vaccine is definitely cutting down the number of infections compared to a few months ago. So that work is really good. There are a very, very small number of people that can still get the infection after the vaccine, but if they get it, it's very mild. So it's not as risky. Unfortunately, a year ago, we were seeing pretty high hospitalization and death rates in the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Island communities, and their risk of dying was much higher than other groups if they got COVID. So that's good news. But again, because we're seeing this slight increase, we wanted to come on your show and see what we could do to help encourage and answer questions that might help people who are unsure about getting vaccinated to get vaccinated.
So right now, the main important thing right now is to tell the people, especially our Pacific Islanders community, to take the vaccine.
Right. And we know a lot of people are potentially not getting it for a couple of reasons. One is, you work in jobs where it's hard to take a day off if
Right.
if you might get a headache and get not feel good the day after. The good news is our two county vaccine sites are open on weekends and holidays and a couple of evenings, and so they might be able to schedule around their work that way. Um, but compared to getting COVID, those symptoms are usually much milder from the vaccine than they are from getting COVID.
Hey, thank
And
you.
the other group that is only recently available to get vaccinated are the 12 to 16 year olds. So in families with young teenagers, that's a new group that has only last few weeks have they been able to get a vaccine.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mark, for sharing this the status and also the rate where we are right now in the King County Public Health from Seattle, Washington. I heard a lot of the people even today from our Pacific Islanders community. They were just like sharing conversation, and one of the things that was brought up saying, how much longer do you think that we're going to continue with this pandemic? Is there any time soon as you being a doctor, or
Hmm.
is it going to be under control with the vaccination, or what can you say?
Well, I think once we get the entire county up above 70%, things will be much better. But compared to things like other vaccines, compared to like measles vaccines or others, you really need to get higher, even up into the 80 or 90% to really stop it. But I think we'll be able to have much more normal lives when the entire county gets everybody above 70% vaccinated. But in communities where you have bigger family units living together, or where people are working in jobs where they interact more with people, you really need to get the entire community vaccinated so that community can feel free to gather together without worrying that the person next to them is not vaccinated.
Right. Um, Thank you so much. At this time, I'm gonna just do a little short break because I know that some people are coming in late. But I wanted to uh, say hello here to Lisita and Bishop Dinofai Taufa from Salt Lake City, and Sia Utu from the here in Washington, and also some other people that are on. Thank you so much, for coming on. Please share our program today because it's very relevant. Almost like anywhere you are, but having the information and update, about the COVID-19 and vaccination rate is very important for all of us to hear, for the safety of all. So I'll just take like 30 seconds, to just take a little melodious break here, just to play a little sound from the Pacific Islands, and then we'll come right back to you. We have this pastor for Nigeria, Pastor Noah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here now. Okay. Yeah, I'm here. Okay. Um, the I think I don't know if it will be a question or because as a pastor, that I monitored the COVID-19 pandemic, and I personally observed a lot of challenges, global challenges, and I think the most important challenge we have right now is for us to be prepared to coming pandemics, because the whole thing caught the entire world by surprise. And then, but now, what are the things that we need to do to get prepared if anything like this happens in the future?
Well, I think we've learned some lessons about once we start to see that a pandemic is coming, is not to delay our response about wearing masks and making sure that we, as much as possible, are social distancing. We know in families, obviously, that's really hard to do, or if you have a job where you have to be around people. But I think what we did see even before we had the vaccine is that by wearing masks very effectively and washing your hands, that those things really made a difference in who got COVID. So in communities, what we need to do is have people like yourself reach out to their communities and really strongly encourage them, because they trust you more than they trust like a doctor that they don't know even. And if community leaders and church leaders say, this is really important, we need to wear masks and we need to, not have large gatherings until this is under control, that helps a great deal. And then once there is a vaccine, then to encourage people to get vaccinated, because we know some people are afraid of vaccines or worried about vaccines, but vaccines are safer than the actual disease.
Okay.
Thank you for always reminding us how important it is, just to wearing masks, in any gathering, public place. I'm sorry to cut off, but I just wanted to mention that I saw the Costco. I went over there, I think last Friday, and a lot of people don't wear masks, and some people still wearing masks, but they give the opportunity and the chances, like that's your choice if you want to wear masks or you don't want to wear masks. I mean, doesn't it kind of still required in our county and the
Yes,
state
in
of
our
Washington?
county, we believe that it's still important to wear a mask until we get at least 70% of the county vaccinated. And especially if your community, in your area, and we can show you some of that data, if your community has lower than 70% vaccination, like I said before, you can go into a store and you don't know how many people have been vaccinated. Some people take off their masks when they're not vaccinated, because some people have never wanted to wear them. And there's no way for you to know when somebody takes their mask off whether they're really vaccinated. So until we get higher level of vaccination, we're still recommending wearing masks when you go inside or when you're in large gatherings.
Another thing is because the burden is still in my mind, and because I'm looking at doing a global conference come this summer, somewhere maybe maybe in September or late summer or somehow. But and then because I wanted a situation where I can reach out to the global community, because I have people that I work with back home and then in Europe and other places. So we are trying to put together a kind of educational convention, So my question will be, because we'll need resources like people who knows things about COVID and, that will come and then help us because it's to be happening in Kent. So I know I'm sorry I was late. So I know that I have a medical doctor who has already given some kind of insight today, but I wasn't there. So, but my question is, how do I get into the resources that I might need in that program?
Well, we can make sure you get our email from Public Health, and then you can contact us, and we can help you. We have people that can, be speakers and help you get material together.
Okay.
But Dr. Mott, as we're going to continue on, I think I don't have any more question at this time. You explained everything very well, and we are going to definitely spread the word. Christina, do you have any new announcement or anything that we need to be aware of from the King County?
No, I think Mark covered everything. Thank you so much for having us. Just a reminder that if you go to kingcounty.gov/COVID, you can find all of the information you need about getting vaccinated in multiple languages.
Oh, okay.
So that is a great resource.
kingcounty.gov, right?
/COVID.
Oh, /COVID. Okay. Pastor Noah, did you get that to make sure that we spread it?
I put it in the chat too. If you can see the chat.
That's wonderful.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
Dr.
for
Mark,
having
joining
us.
From
Thank
Pacific
you for
Islands
all
broadcast.
Thank you for all the work you're doing with your community. It's so important. Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. And we
Thank
look
you.
forward to have another program with you in the upcoming future. Thank you. And now we have the opportunity to speak with Melissa. Melissa is Michelle. I'm sorry. Michelle is from the Department of the Mental Health Support. And I know that we are planning on having some classes and some training in the month of June. So I know, Melissa, we did send out a lot of questions, and I think this one here will be very relevant, with you, Pastor Noah. In our community topic of mental health, especially depression and other types of mental health, is usually dismissed as not like a real or not a problem. What are some ways to identify and confirm to the victims that their mental health issues are real?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Sylvia, and thank you for allowing me to be here with you today.
Yes.
So, in mental health first aid, which is what I teach for the National Council of Behavioral Health. I teach their mental health first aid program through the King County Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Initiative that allows us to bring the trainings to King County free of charge for participants. And in mental health first aid, we teach participants how to recognize signs and symptoms of mental health challenges. We spend a lot of time breaking down and discussing some of the myths and misconceptions that exist around mental health and mental health challenges, because there are a ton of myths, there are a ton of misconceptions out there. So a big part of our program is to be a stigma busting program that takes a look at some of the inaccurate information that's out there and provides correct and accurate information. We believe that education and educating people about accurate information regarding mental health helps to make the conversations a little bit easier for us to have within our communities. We also talk about mental health the same way that we try to talk about physical health. So in mental health first aid, we do a lot of paralleling to, how we treat physical health conditions. In fact, the mental health first aid program itself is set up to parallel physical first aid. Just because we understand that, years ago, people didn't go to their doctor. They didn't talk about physical health problems. Physical health problems carried a lot of stigma years ago. And there's been a shift. And now people are comfortable going and talking to their doctor about their physical health. They're comfortable having conversations with their families about their physical health. They're comfortable talking to their friends about their physical health. So in mental health first aid, our hope is that we will see that same shift begin to happen within communities around mental health. And by reminding people that, mental health challenges deserve that same level of respect and that same level of treatment and that same level of support that physical health conditions do, we're hoping that we can get more people to talk about these topics and to have conversations within their families and within their communities.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
Michelle.
I'm just.
It's okay.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That is a great information. I'm going to ask Pastor Noah, since you have a group homes and you have a lot of clients and you're working with a lot of oldies in a community and you have a church. Go ahead and ask a question right now to Michelle, that's working with the mental health support. And we are going to, there is a plan, to do some training in around June 28th.
Yes,
So-
we have a 2-part training that we're offering for your community, June 28th and June 30th.
Great. Pastor Noah?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. I know you do work with a lot of the, affected people. And I think I'm going to give you this time, to go ahead and ask the question, for.
Yeah, I have too many questions, but let me. There's one controversial one that I want to throw in that has been a challenge. That maybe based on my pastoral perspective, because I know in recent times. People who has been going through some addictions like cocaine, heroin, like Sister Sylvia has mentioned. I've been working closely with people that are coming out of incarceration. So I've been so conversant with that situation. But there are people who have these addictions. But surprisingly to me, I come to realize, I don't know the terminology attached to it, but I can describe what I mean. They now treat those people with control dosage of the same addiction. And then, but I am in the field because I work directly with people who are going through such situation. I've been trying to wrap my mind around how that works. Somebody who has addiction in cocaine, and then he's being treated by giving him that same, I don't know if yeah, because I have a friend of mine. He was my manager. His name is he was in addiction for a long time, and then but he withdrew from the addiction, drugs and all, alcohol, everything. He's now working with Department of Correction. But if he is being treated with the same cocaine at the time he was in addiction, I don't think the guy will ever transit to such level that he has now. So I don't know your response to that.
So I think what you're talking about, if I'm understanding correctly, and first of all, thank you for the work that you're doing with the populations you're serving. I know that can be challenging work, and those populations need people out there helping advocate and support. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I think what you're talking about is kind of a harm reduction approach to substance use disorders, which is about kind of basically keeping people from going into withdrawal. So I don't know a ton about it, but my understanding is that basically you're gradually weaning people off of the substance, with the idea being that gradually those doses will be decreased. I believe it is mainly for use with like opioid addictions more than anything else. But the idea is to gradually begin to wean people off of the substances rather than quitting completely cold turkey. And it's more of what we call a harm reduction type of kind of method or approach to substance use and substance addiction. And it's a little bit outside of what I do with regard to the mental health first aid program that I'm working for. So I don't know as much information about it as, somebody that works strictly in the chemical dependency profession would know.
Okay. So it's almost out of your field of specialization. So because my other question would have been if there have been any research, if actually that practice is really, if it is making matters worse, or if it is, having a but
I do think what you're talking about is harm reduction, and there's kind of mixed reviews and very, very mixed opinions about the effectiveness of harm reduction. The general trend is moving more towards this notion of harm reduction, which is if somebody's going to use, make sure that they're using safely and trying to wean people off of substances rather than forcing them into difficult withdrawals, because difficult withdrawals, that can be a barrier for people getting clean a lot of times. And along with that, we also recognize that with a lot of substance use problems, there are some mental health issues that are going on as well. And so needing to treat the whole person with regard to substance use and mental health together.
I'm not okay. Let me see if this one will apply directly to you. Because as a man of God, and then I have this religious background and training and all of that. I know that the system is now recognizing other. I wouldn't say treatment, but I think there are yoga or something that it helps in depression and all of that. I know I know the practice of yoga and all that, spiritism, for lack of a better word. But my question is, why is it that there is uh, a lesser recognition of people like me who believe that I can use the Bible, the scripture, based on this word of God, which has been working for ages? Why is the system now a kind of going away completely from that principle?
So my approach to that is like one of the principles that we do talk about in mental health first aid is we talk about encouraging self-help and other support strategies. So it's meeting people where they're at. So for some individuals, yoga or relaxation or meditation kind of practices might be where they're at and might be what's beneficial. For other individuals, it's going to church and it's their church community and it's their spiritual and religious leaders that are what are beneficial and what help to aid them in terms of their self-care. And we really seek to connect people with whatever that self-care looks like for them. So whatever that individual is, whatever they identify, right? We don't tell people what to do. We help people to come up with that solution for themselves. So if somebody is involved with a spiritual community, we want to connect them with their spiritual community, with their spiritual leader, with people like you, right? We want to help them to recognize and identify and utilize those supports that they have in their lives. If people aren't connected with spiritual communities and instead identify more with relaxation practices like yoga or meditation or other types of practices, we want to seek to connect them with those type of practices. We never try to force anyone into any one direction. We rather try to meet them where they're at and guide them towards what works for them.
Okay.
So definitely we recognize the role that spirituality and religion plays for individuals 100%. We think it's a very valuable and very important role for many individuals.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is somebody who was just,
I think you're mute. There you
they're
go.
sitting in a little group that they were just texting me. You know, they said they don't want to come on the line. But otherwise, for those of you that need to have a question about kahamu fehui, ko e wano aono, ono ni mataha fitu nima ni maua. Wano aono, ono ni mataha fitu nima ni maua. Kapau kahamu ki fehui, whekau aki pa mo e tōpiko e aho ni ko mental health support. Ko ia ko e toi whamanata tai peheni ka ki motolu, ai ngahi mea ko ia o ku whai tokoni kai a King County. Hangi ko wiko o sina e whai e nau polokalama ko e rent, pe ko e eviction protection, ko e ke lava turi ki motolu. Pea o ku iai lewa ai mea pe ke lava ten te mauto e tuku ia tupe, ai ko e rent-help.kingcounty.gov. Aia ka pak mo fe alukai, ka pak mo fe ngawe ake ngai whenga maria ko ni, ke o ai turi ki motolu futai whenga taa ko ni, o tapu ia ke tuli ki motolu me ha api o molotonga rent ai pe ko tatau pepe ko apartment. Pea aku whamanata tai peheni ke mo tāmai o ai ha mo fehui, lahi apito ngai mea ke whai tai tokon e King County, plerulu ko toape. My question is that I have these folks, you know, would just text me in. They just said, you know, with the training that you're going to do, is the mental health support is for the people that going through depression or for the people that like lost their loved ones or any family problem or issues, or this is good for anybody to help them to support their mental health system?
Yeah, great question, Sylvia. So mental health first aid isn't like a therapy program or a treatment program or a processing group. It's a public education program. So it is designed for any participants that want to learn about how to identify and recognize signs and symptoms of mental health and provide support to individuals in their community who may be struggling with mental health challenges or mental health crisis. And we walk people through in the adult training course. We walk our adults through how to recognize and identify early signs and symptoms, because ideally mental health first aid is an early intervention program. Our goal is to recognize things early so that they don't turn into crisis situations. And then we walk through how to help during worsening signs and symptoms. And then we walk through how we can provide support and assistance in crisis situations. So it is designed to be accessible and taught to anybody within the community who wants to participate and wants to learn some of those basic skills.
Thank you so much for clarifying. This is great information, like providing, to the people that need it, with the mental health support. Okay, I think I have another person here, but I'll let you go ahead, Pastor Noah, because I know your time is very valuable.
Yeah,
Pastor Noah?
I have another question. There was this. I know of a situation that I was involved a little bit, of someone who had bipolar, and she was on some drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when she's on her drugs, she does very well, and when she doesn't take her drugs, then things fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And now, my question is, those drugs. I know that drugs are extract. It's extracts, maybe from. Does it? My question is, is there alternative way to the drugs, maybe nutritionally or something of that nature, or could it be like Abilify? I remember there's one was Abilify, and some of those things have serious side effects.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And that's a little bit outside of what I talk about, but I do have some background with working with individuals that struggled with mental health challenges and were on medications. And so what I can tell you is that in mental health first aid, we recognize that the best treatment program for most individuals is a combination of psychiatric medications and talk therapy. So going through to some type of therapy program where they're working with a therapist. That doesn't mean that a person necessarily needs to be on medication for the rest of their lives, but there are some individuals with really serious mental health challenges who may need to be on medication for the rest of their lives. Just like if you had like a medical condition like diabetes, you might need to take insulin for the remainder of your life, right? It's a similar situation with psychiatric medications that are used and prescribed to treat mental health disorders, because mental health conditions often are the result of imbalances within the brain chemistry. And so those psychiatric medications work to correct the imbalances within the brain chemistry. And for a lot of people, we haven't really found a nutritional supplement or a nutritional protocol that completely takes the place of medications. For some individuals, though, they are able to manage their signs and symptoms without medication. So it's really a case-by-case basis. But for like the situation you're describing there, somebody who's been on medication and is noticing that when they're off of medication, the symptoms are getting worse, that likely is an individual who may need to remain on medications and definitely remain under the care of a doctor who can monitor those medications. That being said, sometimes people can have their medications changed. So there's not one like medication that works best for everybody. It's a lot of trial and error to find the right medication. And in mental health first aid, we really encourage people to advocate for themselves and to talk with their doctors about what will work best. And that includes sometimes getting a second opinion, right? So that if what we're on right now isn't working or the side effects are intolerable, then working with their medication prescriber to get on different medications where maybe the side effects are not so harsh or so difficult for their system. Because we don't want the side effects to be so severe that it really is significantly impacting that person's life either. Right, so we want to make sure that people are on the right medications for them. And unfortunately, with mental health medications, it often takes a while and a lot of working with a prescriber and a lot of advocating and a lot of asking questions to that prescriber to find the exact right medication dosage to work for that person.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, Pastor Noah, do you have another question or you wanted to wait?
No, I'm okay right now.
Okay, all right, yeah. I think that the next question is coming from. I'm sorry, this is coming from California. Those are they're just watching, on YouTube Live and Facebook. The question is asking, is it possible for a person to tell when you associate with somebody if that person, it's affected mentally or need to have the training, the mental health support? Even though they're asking the question from California, but I'm relating it to the people here because this is where the training, this is where our resource, and that's where the help here in the King County, in Washington State.
Yeah, no problem. And mental health first aid is not limited to King County. So in
Okay.
California, they can attend a mental health first aid class as
Oh
well.
wow, that's
Yeah,
good.
their mental
I'm
health
glad
first
to
aid is
hear
a
that.
nationwide program. So they can still connect with a mental health first aid training that might be happening in the California area. If you go to mentalhealthfirstaid.org, you can find classes that are happening within your community, no matter where you're coming from. So we don't teach people to diagnose things, but we teach people to recognize changes. So one of the things that can be an indicator that somebody might be struggling is if you're noticing changes in behavior. So changes in mood, changes in appearance, changes in feeling, changes in emotion. We're always looking for changes. And so if we start noticing significant changes going on with an individual, then it's not necessarily mean they have a mental health challenge or have a mental health crisis, but it means we want to approach them and engage them in some conversation. We want to talk with the person about what we're noticing, what we're observing, and find out what might be going on for that individual. It could be anything, right? We might be noticing changes because, that person has, a work project that they're stressed out about, or they got a new baby at home who's keeping them awake all night, or, they're just dealing with some of the stresses that come along with the pandemic. Or it could be an indicator that there is something more significant going on. And a big part of what mental health first aid is about is it does teach people some different strategies to approach and to start these conversations with an individual. So we actually talk about in mental health first aid, we have a 5-step action plan that we teach our participants. Part of that action plan lies in approaching and starting conversations when we notice things. And we walk through how to use that action plan both in non-crisis situations, which is where a lot of the times we might find ourselves, as well as in crisis situations.
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know. Um, I know you made mention about the stigmatization of mental health issues in the past, and but my question is, supposing a person have a job, for example, a student or something have a job, and then has mental problem issues that might result into hospitalization, and so is there a law or a provision that protects such individual so that by the time he or she is out from his or her treatment, he doesn't come home and then the job is gone? Because such situation can even prevent people really opening up, because maybe if you open up, your boss will fire you or something of that nature. So what is the provisions right now to protect people who have such situation, moving forward with their life?
The American Disability Act does provide some protections around that, but an individual actually has to talk to their boss, talk to their supervisor. They have to inform their supervisor that something's going on so that those rules can then come into play. So it's actually better practice and somebody is more protected by the rules and regulations by actually being upfront and having a conversation with their supervisor, because you cannot fire somebody if they have a disability, and that's why you're firing them. In Washington State, though, we are an at-will kind of employment, so people can be fired for any reason here in Washington State, which makes things a little bit more challenging. And again, that's a little bit outside of what we do in mental health first aid, but we do talk to people about advocating for themselves, about approaching your supervisors, about having these conversations. We also really want to train places of employment about being able to support and better support employees who may be struggling with mental health challenges. It's okay. Yes, definitely. So I believe that your training is June 28th and June 30th. It's 2 half days and they need to register. So registration goes through the King County, and I can put that information in the link for you, or I can even forward that information to you, Sylvia. I believe you've been helping with Sue Wider with setting up those trainings, but they would register through the website to be able to participate in the training. And it's 2 half days with 1 day in between to just allow people some opportunity to process the information so that we're not overloading people with info. 3.5 hours each day. Yes, it'll be more, it starts in the morning time. And I'll have to double check. I don't have the hours right in front of me. I'm not the instructor for the class on June 28th. It's one of our wonderful instructors, Bonnie, who will be teaching for us that day. Yep, and participants will complete some pre-work before coming in. So they will get an email that will let them know what that pre-work is. It's 2 hours of pre-work that has to be done ahead of time, which is in the form of some videos and some slides that they will watch and review prior to coming into class, just so that everybody comes in with the same basic information and framework and kind of understanding of how the program works. Excellent. I have that on my calendar. Just a second. I think it is Monday, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yes, it is Monday, Wednesday.
So it is a Monday and Wednesday. And ko ia ko whamanata tai pe kai ngā tonga ko ahua valo sune pa mo ato noa. Ko paure ke whai ki le sita pa mo whetu taki mai pe ke telefoni ko e wana ona tol noa ni ma valua o ua. Pe ko e whetu taki mai pe ia whai ngā taimi pe ke lava ke mau tokoni ke ono le sisita ko ke kau ia training ko ni. I think one of the community leader, Sina's gonna come on pretty soon here. She may have some question. But June 28th and June 30th, that is a Monday and also Wednesday. And Michelle, you have a lot of resourceful and great information. But I do think that I would like to ask you to come over, like maybe on like maybe next week or the second week of June, whenever you're scheduled, because I know that was sacrifice and you commit, to take the time to participate today to share this information. So I'm going to give Pastor Noah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. This is a great information. I also want you to please we will share the information from Michelle so we can register some of your group homes in your community or the people in the church. So it's like 3 hours on June 28th, 3.5 hours on June 30th. So, and that is very resourceful, that is very helpful, and there's a lot of information here that will also help you as you being a leader for the Nigeria
Yes.
community.
And the classes are done through Zoom. So individuals will need to have access to a computer or, at least a phone. Computer works best for being able to
Right.
log into the Zoom meetings.
So it can be done virtually. You don't have to go to a location. It can be done on a Zoom.
Yep.
Pastor Noah, just like what you're doing today, the training is going to be like that. So it's just very helpful. Okay, Pastor Noah, I know that the time is about like a minute away before 7 o'clock. I'm gonna just think of something that is very important. Some of them are coming in very late, but because of our time with Michelle, we greatly appreciate. We'll play the Pacific melody that's coming over from all the Pacific Islands. Mid part. Yeah. Right there.
No,
That song is done in one song is they sing it, like in Samoan, Fijian, and Tongan, and that's why they call it Pacific melody. Pacific Islanders.
Si alope, fiukumi si anemafua. Onesi utaka, otu ola isuba. Tapae uhila, fakalava aifofua. Kifakaha ele, si ipele omala ikula.
Community leader, especially for the senior. So you'd like to maybe share something or would like to ask some information to Michelle. Go ahead, Sina.
Hi, Michelle. This is Sina. I am one of the volunteers who take charge on caring for our vulnerable seniors. And what do you suggest? The training on the 28th and the 30th will help our seniors.
Yes. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
I think that right, Sinai. So you just want to know what do you suggest, for that training, because he's working with the vulnerable adult, and she's a leader of the Tongan community here in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, I think it would definitely be beneficial for the adults, for the staff especially, that you have that are working with the vulnerable adults. And if the individuals within that you're serving want to attend as well, it's also accessible it's really designed to be accessible to anybody. So we really don't have any specific requirements about who can and who cannot attend. We try to make it accessible to everybody.
It's really designed to be accessible to everybody.
Sina, te kalava tuko hifo ho telefoni ma auto reflect my sound here. Kona sina na ne famatala exai abito fefe wita mai ko
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Yeah, I think Michelle, I think I heard you said it's very important, for the leader.
Okay. Can you hear?
And yeah.
Definitely for the staff members,
For the staff
be really,
members,
really
yeah.
beneficial, because that's going to provide your staff with some skills to be able to better support the adults that they're serving. If the adults that they're serving, if you have identified members within that community that could be beneficial to each other, it could be beneficial for them as well. But definitely for your staff members, I would highly recommend it. We've done a lot of trainings for individuals that are serving vulnerable adults, and they find it to be really helpful.
Get on the June 28th schedule.
Yeah. I think Sina just mentioned it, Michelle. They will try to get on, on June 28th, and She heard you, how important it is, for the staff and leaders, because we are the one that's serving, the vulnerable adults, eh? Yeah, Sina, thank you so much for
Yes,
joining us.
thank you.
Yeah, do you have any other question?
I don't, but I think that this will be a good baseline for me to learn on June 28th.
Yes.
And see if it can be a consistent type of training for our underserved seniors. And thank you again for all your support.
Yeah. Did you hear that, Michelle?
Yes, I did. And so the information, I'm putting it in the chat box for you right now as well for your group. But to get involved with it, it's mhfa@valleycities.org. And so you want to email that address, and then Sue can get you on. Sue Wider, who is our coordinator for the program, can get you signed up for the class. So she can connect you with the class, let her know you're interested in the June 28th and June 30th class for the Pacific Islander community. And she will make sure that you get registered for that. And then you'll start getting a lot of emails asking for you to do the pre-work, and we'll do a lot of email reminders and coaching through how to get through the pre-work and the learning management system part of the training course.
Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. I would definitely want to make sure that these all this information are reachable. So if you could just maybe detail it one more time and send it to me on email, so I can print it out and circulate it, or forward it directly to them. But they all
I'll be happy to do that. Happy to do that. And then this is for adults, serving adults here in King County. So we do have to stick within, because we're grant funded, we do have to stick within the King County area for this particular training. But like I said, if you have listeners outside of King County, if they go to mentalhealthfirstaid.org, they can find trainings in their communities that are happening as well.
All right.
So King County's lucky. We have a special grant that funds it free of charge for us. It's normally $170 a person is the value of this training, but in King County, we are able to offer it free of charge.
Oh, thank you so much. Michelle, we greatly appreciate, your time. It's Michelle Pilon. Thank you so much, for coming in today. And she is from the mental health support, and we're looking forward, for the training on June 28th and June 30th. Yeah, although we say this in English because that was easy to cover, but everyone, are going to translate it, to the community. And we're looking for more to participate. Thank you so much for all this great resourceful information that you share with us today with our Pacific Islanders broadcast. Thank you again. And we look forward to have another program with you in the upcoming future, so that way to get everything all ready before the time. Again,
all right.
Thank you. And we'll play this song, as you about to leave. Thank you. And
it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Kolo ko ia be ko e kolo e malata aya ko ne tota o ka ko ne foki ki apia malolo ki ai aya ko ako sitalangi ko ne maloloin I hono ta o fitu fun mau no ako sitalangi na ne mau hoa ki mai ko langi pea kia e na ki whanau. Pea tau whiwhia pe ko e neongo ko ne mole atu ka ku tau kau whataha moia. I e ahoni o whai ai whai lotu a wha osi ai whamiri pe a pongpongi lewa o whai ai ahono a aho. Aia koe ahoni o ku kamata atu ai ngai whai lotu i he whiawhini. O ku lele mei ai o toko osi ki he hiwa po uli i he pōni. Ko ia whawhi e te peki mō tolu mō lawa ke mō wa atu osi i whakau ha mō ofa. Ki he aptanga mamahi o ku ko ia o ku maloto pe ke mau kawa tai pe hono o atu ai tua sila ko ia ke aptanga mamahi ka ki motolu ko ia fe a watu o kau whatape mo family. Ko foha fokene o ako sita langi pe mo mai ko langi ko na mama o atu a ofa ke lotu langi pe a ko ia o ku hoko pe ia ko whaife kau o seas afitu i Auburn City Seventh Day Adventist Church. Aia ko apisiasi ko ni ko apisiasi afitu pe ia. O tu ia i hala ko ia ko whanoa ua hiva street southeast. E kole ngeni ki a neta. Hene kamata o ka whamoremore maka ne tuku i atu. Ai whainene ko ni peko a pongpong i lewa te whawhi e tai peki mō tolu. O whai lewa ahono a aho me he taimi 5 yafi. Taimi 5 yafi ki he taimi hiva po uri. 5 yafi taimi hiva po uri. Pea koe au ki whalai te wikeni e whaha ele e atlewa mea wha e ki Los Angeles. Ka ko ia o atu pena e tua sila ko ne mautuka te i he la ko he whanoa ua. Tu ia i hala wahiva street southeast i Auburn, Washington. O kai mo fika telefoni ka pau te mo fe ma o ke mo fitu taki ai. Ko e ua ni matolu ni ma fitu ono ono ua valtolu. Ua ni matolu ni ma fitu ono ono ua valtolu. Ko ia ko e tau si apsia ia ulotonga hoko i he kolo e malata. Pea ko ako sitalangi ko nengo matu ana nau kau i he kau he ulaki kau paionia mai ki Seattle, Washington ai i loa ko sela pea mo maka te rilo. Pea ko ni maloloen i hono tau fin mo furmau no. Pea ko ia ko tukat pea tua sila o ku whahoko ngai whai lotu i he whiawhi koe ni. O ata pe ki hataha pe ke mo kau whataha i si whakalanglangi i oi mo ui. Ai toko tahani ko ako sitalangi ko ene maloloen i hono tau fit mo furmau no. Pea ko ia ai ko e koe ke aho a pongpongi whawhi e tai pe ki mo tolu ke mo kau mai ki si i aptanga mamahi e whai ahono malanga i pea mohono a aho e whakahoko ia i he wharelotu pe ko ia o seas awhitu. Wharelotu seas awhitu ai koe whanoa Wahiva Street Southeast Auburn, Washington. Ma ofalai ka koe sela koe ngā koe mau ki ensinia fokia a mau tolu i he reti o koe ni Voice of South Pacific. Pea kai ofalai atu e ni ki he whanau paia ke te koe wanta pea mo vilang ka pe foke whaiwhekau ofa ke lotulangi pea pe foke ki mo tolu kotoa pe ai si whanau moi whamiri o e apsia pamahi. O kai ofalahi at ka ki mo tolu. Ka tawange pe ke o atu he e ki hanonga mo he maari e kia ki mo tolu nolotonga ai mawai pa mo mofa e ofa anga. Ko ia te whamanaka tai pe i he whiawhine whahoko nau ngai whai lotu e toko osia ki ai whiawhi pe pe he whaka a pongpongi o whai ai pe ai pa mono aho ka mata pe i he taim whai whiawhi o osi ke hi wapo uri a po a pongpongi o ku i loa pe te mulawa kukoloi ko e Auburn City Seventh Day Adventist. Ki mo tolu ko ia na mo me atu ki he malanga i ko ia o e mea wha eiki o Simoni te rilo ko ni mama o ate waftahi wako whalota tau pe mo ia i Auburn. Ai ko tua sila whanoa Wahiva Street, Southeast, Auburn, Washington. telefoni ko e wani matolu ni mafitu ono ua valtolu ko e whika telefonia ai taha o e whanau ka koe whaiwhekau i e sasi a whitu. Pea i e au ka pongpongi to e whawhi e tai peki mō tolu ka iaha mō ofa pa mō a oa ki si aptanga mamai koe ni o whahoko ia i e whiawhini pea mō a pongpong. To e whamanatu atu ai pēwhoki o si ai mo e aptanga mamahe taha ko e si i Angolo ka kone tō tau na i loa ko helu. Ai ko langi tō tō helu na e whanofo ia ko helu ko e tō taha tau i whanua ai ka inga ano he hea ka mo e maka ko paurine o loto foa hapai. Ko e malolo e ni alang tō tō helu i hono tau ono ngofulu mawalu. Pea o whakahau ko ano mea whai iki e tōnaki ko i atonga ai a koe whalaite i Amerikani. I he aho tōnaki ko i a o wikeni. Pea o ku iai pe ngai ofa kekehe me ngai ta whakeke wa o te pe ki he taha o no te whiwhine lahi. Ka koe whine eiki, koe wha e, ka koe si auntie, koe meitanga. Ko le sieri helu. Aiana i loa ko le sieri palovi te nisi helu tu i pulotu. Pea o pune i heni pepa mo ni ki whanau o tu i pulotu ka pepa kia asinate. Tu i pulotu i Seattle, Washington. Ko ia ko e si ngai ofa ko tō pe, ka ta whaka o pe e ngai ta whakeke. Pea i hamo ngai ofa ko e taha ene ngai apsia pa mo e ngai whamiri o whelalawe i. Ko si i peki aini a Dr. Helu. I ono ta ono ngofulu mawalu, ka ku nai mauhoa foki ki a vesinia. Pea na ki whanau e toko nima. Ko e lahi taha ko tawake, pea mo e ka mai tangata, pe me foki a Sylvia, pea gai mo e ongo ki whanau e toko ua i tonga. Ko ia o kia e ofalai atu heni whakakau atu i he waha o pe kia te koe toktalang toto helu. No koe Angolo, mau ofalai atu kia whawhonga. Whala ua ko lava o ngai ngā we ko ke tātalo mai. Nā ki whakaang ki ke tōni e kakai. Mo tō tupu, ke nā wau. Ia ngai whenga poto, whakaata mai. Pea mā ngai whakapoto-poto ke lava ke langa kia i e nofo ai community. Pea mo e kāinga mau ofalahi atu hene. Patawa ke toka i e nonga me whia maria au tau eki. Tua o whātou. ke pe ka te whakaonga tai pe si apsia koe ni o ako sita langi. Koe mea whakaiki koe iau, whakahoko ano whailotu i he whiawhini i Auburn City Seventh-day Adventist Church. Ai ko sias awhitu ia koe ia i Auburn City. Ko ako sita langi, ko ene si tatau mai na e whae, ka ne whoki ki ako malolo kai. Ki hono tau ono hafulu. Kamere i hono tau whinu hafulu mao no. Pea o whahoko ata ngai whailotu i he whiawhini a tā pe kia siasi pe pea mua whamiri. Pea kei ke ngatai ko a pongpongi toi whawhia te peki mo tolu. Mo kau whataha o si whai a hono mea whaeki a hono a aho pe pongpongi ka mata me taim whai whiawhi ki Taimi hiwa. I Auburn City Seventh-day Adventist pea whai whekau pe ai a hono whoha ai a ko pastor whaiwhekau ofa ke lotu langi. Ai au whahokon e whānoa aua Wahiva Street South East i Auburn, Washington. Koe telefoni koe wani matolu, ne mawhitu ono ua valtolu. Ai blere ngai whailote whiawhini pe a pongpongi lewa, koe whai lewa a aho pe kamata i Taimi whai whiawhi ke hiwampo uri. Pea tau kolose ki tonga, pea mono whamanatua o Dr. Helu. Ko lang toto helu na e tau lahi a ene nofo i he kolo e malata. I he hiwa ngofulu tupu. Na ne he ni ai pea na ne ako, ma o anu ngai meta i tohi pea mi university ko ia o Washington. Ko ene maloloini e hono tau ngofulu maa walu. Ne lotonga ma uhua foki ki a Virginia. Pea kai ina ki whanau. Pea kone maloloeni i hono tau no funma walu. Te wakiat ke whai a hono whai ke ka o mea whai ki koe ni i a atonaki koe ia o wikeni. Ai a koe whalai te ia a Amerikani. Koe ia o kihen pe foki a lahi koe ia i a Dr. Langtoto Helu. Aia ko lesieri palovite nisi helu tu ipulotu. Pea koia o whai pe ai pa mo lotu ho whekina ki e si to whiwhini koe ni. Koe ngā ko lang toto ne tau lahi a ene i heni. I se ato wasngatoni o whahako whatongi ai o a o ki he wawhi tupu. Pea ne tok whalau watu ki ta preanga ki ala whahako ngai ngā aue i he university koia i Aukalani, New Zealand. Pea ne wholau me ai ki tonga. Pea o kuongo au pito a si more ato tako ni. Na ne whenga whoki ke ne langa hake a nofo ko ia ai kāinga tonga. Pea ko ia o ku au ofalahi atu ki tonga, whakahoko atu i heope, pa pe whoki ai ofalahi atu ki si anti koe ni, ka koe whae, koe kui, e sieri palof tenisi. Helu tu pulotu ke mole ai si tonga ane koe ni. Ka koe tō taha na ia ni ngai whakaaro. Alama e he whewhina mo whamore more pe. You have reached the maximum time permitted for recording your message. na o hangahi. O mau inga a pito ai lahi o ngahi kore tokoni nga ngai tawa ake ke hange ko ni ko ki motol ko ke lava totongi mo ngai reni o lava beke na alpha foka fa mai na hiva ki moi. Aya ko rent-help.kingcounty.gov. Ko rent be rent-help help be .leva kingcounty.gov gov ke government. O lava beke mo mao fa fon leva mo ngai application ke ngai tokoni ke. Ki mo tau ko na hu to mui mai na mau ka fata e kamataanga. Pea mo Dr. Mark Del Beccaro na nehu mai whake o whamatala ke tuunga ko ia o kei COVID-19. Pea mo e anga ko ini o ngahi huhu ko ini ko stuku atu. Na ne whamama whai mai o fumatu aki mahu inga ke tau ngawe aki a ngahi huhu ko ini. Pea ko sai whako tuku ange mai ka mata he tau tahaua au ke tau tahau no o whai ai peki o lunga. Toi airewa ma ngai whale i ki he anga ko ia o mo ilele e ata mai sina mo lau marie. E Michelle, pea ko ia o kia e ngai polokalama e whakahoko ia ahua walu mo e ato noa. Pea ko o atu heni ai koreka ki mo tolu ko e kai ngai community ke mo ngawe ake ngai whenga mari ko ni. Ko mo alu pe ki website o mo sio tonu e ngai polokalama ko ni ke tokoni kia ki mo tolu. Te kole angeni ke taata tau ki fohiwa pa tau alu le waheni ki he ngahi ki nau tolu ko ia ngai tuaki pea me he market fisi e o atu he taimini ko i ngau lahi a pita fruit cake mo alu nga tona ka mata pe tolai tolua o ke tolai walu ngai fruit cake fresh o nau tok tau mai ki ai ke mo ngau e aki pea kai ke ngatai ko e ifo atu mo amia ko i ai mo ngawe akirewa mo alu ki he Fiji market ayo ilo ko Fiji Bonanza o tu ia i he military road ko ia i Kent o mo whatawai ha mo ngai foi fruit cake na toki ha o hanga tonu ia ko i fo whawhau atu hangi ko lau ai motua o lewa peka sai ki tau ilo ko toki au tonu te ki ai ko ili toto atu ia whamalata tai peka a pongpong whakaate ko e whaasau ngai o Samoa mo alatalo pea pehe foki ke polo kalama ko ia ai koristo tuku o e ka wako ko ia i e koristo tupo i e wahenga se ato e take atu ia e Casanova lutui a pongpongi ko i palesteni pokia tua pe lulu ko toa pe pea e o atu le waheni pea mo e lai ko ia i he mea whaeki o lang toto helu i e aho toko i e aho whalaite ko ia o weekeni i he Voice of South Pacific ai pe Monite ko toa pe, mo me amai tau kawhata e polokala mali ko ia ai ka inga vai ni mo hu whang lupe. Pea pe whoki ki he ki toko mololo. Pea ko e tusi te, ko e helping hands ia mo e kauta me a whakalata ko e na moto me a ke mai ki a ane po. Pule lulu, ai a ko e polokala mai a tukata e ngahi information mo ngahi ongonga mo ngahi whanongonongo ko ia me King County ke toko ni i ai ko. Kone o atu le wahene taimini ai tuwaki ko ia ai Fiji market pe osko ia patau alme ai ki liko shio. Liko shio ka iai peha taimi o ke puputu o whakaukau ka ki ilo po hai te hanga ki ai. Lava pe o toko ni i koe ia whahinga taimi pe.
Makatuli
welcome to Bambi Fiji Bazaar. We are here to help. Largest collection of Indonesian and Polynesian and Micronesian community. So you're welcome in anytime. We are open 7 days a week from 10 o'clock till 7 o'clock, and Sunday is 10 to 4. So all of our guys are welcome. Indian, Pakistanis, Polynesian, Micronesian. We have all the community stuff right under one roof. Thank you.
Pamanato tayo kay kimotolo. Hani ko kimotolo ko viaha mo iate baka mo ki businessi. Te viaha Taimi o ke tau laki a mga whangata a mga whalapare ma i whanonga anga. Pe kai ke ilo te ko hai e tu o tawha aki ke to o atu ho makasia mo whaingata a. Petutaki lewa I he taimini ke nau tokoni I koe. Pea whakaata-atahala ke lava ke ilo nau iaibe ai whukataha loea whamaman lahi I Amerikani. Petutaki ake lewa kia Michael Halot Puloka ke ua noa ono ni manoa wha hiwa fitu ni mataha. Telefoniko ua noa ono ni manoa wha hiwa fitu ni mataha ke kautaha koe liko shio. Ai ko shio kono ange kono malu I koe me ngahi mea ke kotoa pe. Wa uko ia ka pau te mao hao pepa. Ange ko ngai tawhaak whaka immigration ni. Ngai tawhaaki ko ia kono tukuaki I koe he tawhaaki o whaka uri. Te koe hape hao palaparema I api. Te tukuaki I koe ki hangai mea. Ange koe turi koe me ngawe anga. Koe taimi eni ke whituataki anga tonu ki te ki liko shio. Hoko lewa koha me mipa. Pea ikai ngatai. Pea nonga. Pea whia marie ho o whakakaukau o toko atu ai mawhasia I he taimi o I whanonga anga. Telefoniko I wanoa ono. Ni manoa wha hiwa whitu ni mataha. Wanoa ono. Ni manoa wha hiwa whitu ni mataha. Koe whituataki anga tonu pe koe kia Michael Haloti Puloka. Wanoa ono. Ni manoa wha hiwa whitu ni mataha. Toi whamanato dai peheni a pongi pongi. Ko inga ko polokalama ko ia ka wako tutuku ko ia polisko tupou. E tuku atu ia e Palestini Casanova lutui e taimi fitu e fiafi ko ia a pongpongi. Pea ko e tokotahani fo ko ia Palestini ko ia e ka wako tutuku polisko tupou. E wahenga siato. Pea te waki foki pea mo nau katoanga whamanatu ko nau to te nau host ko ia I he uafe wafa. Uafe wafa ko nau to te nau host ko ia whakakatoa ko ia Amerikani pia motonga mai ki Seataloni. Ke kolo ko ia o e malata mo tawa e matai hui. Ko ia o kai whakawhi ni ke mō kau whataha I polokalama I whiawhi ko ia pongpongi. A ki mō tolu ko ia o mō whananga mai mea ngai whetu pe tate whito ke ka waka tutuku ko ia ai korisko tupou I he kolo o e malata I he whiawhi ko ia a pongpongi. I he taimi whitu e whiawhi. Whaasaunga Samoa, for those of you that tune in every Thursday. Whaasaunga Samoa, it's hosted by Alatalo. Every Thursday start at 5 o'clock in the evening. Ko ia, ko ki motolo ko ia ka takpehe huto mui mai. Ka koe pulelulu ko toa pe ka mata ngai polokalama ko ia King County ngai. Whanongonongo pe e lava ke tokoni ki he taha kotoa pe. O viai lewa ngahi information nai ke tokoni ki ho reni. Ange koe mo ui lelei te mau lele lewa ai I he wiki kahau. He koe mea ia au whie mau e ho tau kainga. Ke tau kau whataha I he polokalama mo ui lelei. Ko ia o wiki kahau. Whamalo tene ka ki moto ko ia ne mo wafe mai ki he ki polokalama ko ia ai Voice of South Pacific ko ia I he ahoni. Pea na tau kamata ak foki ai King County Public Health, Seattle and King County. Ko ia pea mo doctor ko ia I he ahoni. Pea kai whia lahi a pito I he tau kawhataha pea mo King County na pia tokoni foki. Ko e vahe ai ngai information ko ni. Ai ko Dr. Mark na tau kawhataha ko ia I he ahoni. Malo a pito aha mo kau mai. E o atu pena e tau whai fast ko ni. Toi pia ngai minitsi me heni pia whaka oslewa e tau polokalama ko ia ki awani.
Say,
whaasinga koe da Polokalama, ai da Polokalama koe aoni koe ngai announcement mai ngai whanongo nongo. Tau te whito ke vahe koe he King County a Polokalama. I aha koe ni. Ai koe King County whoki koe pure anga whakalot whanua ia a Mautolu. Pia koe whamalo he ni. Thank you so much, Christina Frederick. Also, thank you, Dr. Mark, and also Michelle from the mental health support. Thank you, Pastor Noah, for joining us today, and also Sina from the Tongan community leader. Okay, thank you, everyone. Lepa malo lahi heni malo apito mo mai. Pea ko tawa umain ke whaasinga tau Polokalama. Mo e te whamanata te pe tau mea wha eki o lotonga lere i Taimi ni. Te whahokot pe ano a aho ia pongi. Pea o whahoko ia i he whare lotu ko i sas awhitu. Ko i Open Seventh-day Adventist Church i Auburn. I e whiawhi ko ia a pongi. Rai whamalo lahi heni ki a neta tua tāpea Love Hong. I he tokoni lahi ko ia ke lava tuku atu e tau Polokalama. Te whawhia tai pe a pongi. Mo toi mea mai pe i he Taimi ni mai whiawhi. Ko i ngā koe whaasausaanga ia o Samoa. Pea pe whoki ki Polokalama koe ka wako tutuku ko lisko tupo. Malo apito mo mea mai ka nā to whatongia na kai ke hoa mo tau. Koe whai pe aere lei taha. Thank you everyone. Have a good night.
Te ia